Ishtapreshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashuki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Nigama Kapaduragaritam Padam Shukam Karamita Dravi Samitam Pibata Bhagavatam Rashamarayam Mahora Hora Sika Bhuvi Bhavakam Krishna
Padam
Sada
Shukam
Vipagane
Karamita.
Ramagani He Karo Nashta Dushamasha Paranako Dunodidam Twamapiyadabhishuta Vishutam Vibhusam Yapirayana Bidam Biduksaram Prakyayida Homara Sankleshana Vanamusanti Nanyataham Atmaramasya Muniya Nagranti Kuruvan Kurvantia Dina Itam Bhutam Ganahari Om Aganatimarandasang Garangana Saraka Chaksurun Miritam Yanatashmai Sri Garabe Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutare Swayam Nupakaramyam Darati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parakamanam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sa Sri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sajevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Sta Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutare Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pachadine Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Paskata De Satarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Well, thanks for Brent jumping on board. I'm not surprised we don't have more at this point in time, having had a hiatus of 3 weeks. I was in Toronto, Rath Yatra, 3 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I was at Thunder Bay, Festival of Colors on Sunday, the Rath Yatra on Saturday. And last week, I was in Farmington Hills, Michigan with Yugo Kishore Das for their Color Fest as well. It's pretty much the end of the Colorfest season, with one exception. The week after next, there'll be Vancouver, a 2-day festival on the 17th and 18th of August. I'll be going to that as well. Meanwhile, in the home front, we had a big crowd on Saturday night at the Salt Lake City Temple. Everybody's very enthusiastic. I posted a picture of everyone with their arms up, Hari bubbling there. Prior to that, we'd gone to the Indian Food Fair, taking advantage of the residency and Spanish work of one of the most sought after kirtan leaders in the world, Agnidev, who happens also to be my old friend from back in the early 80s in San Francisco. Los Angeles. I've been doing the Festival of India on college campuses in 80, 81, and 82. And for entertainment, I invariably called upon Agnidev to come out to the college campuses and chant. So we worked together quite extensively in the past. And it's a kind of a blast from the past to be working with him once again. He's kick-started Street Sankirtan. Last Saturday was the second week in a row devotees gone out. I was in Michigan the first week, so I couldn't join him, but I joined at the Indian Food Fair this last Saturday in Liberty Park. We arrived in the park. There were 11 devotees who had gathered, including Dr. Brent with his books, Caru, who had made beautiful date balls to pass out and always had a big, huge smile on his face. Padam Parush, all the way from Australia, was with us, as well as Agni and Krishna Prasaya and her young son, Mayapur. So it was a jolly crew. And when we arrived, they had a nice stage with a good sound system. They were just playing recorded music. So I wandered across the field to see if I could request that we go on stage, seeing as they had nothing live happening at the moment. I wasn't really very confident of getting a positive response, but I thought, oh, nothing ventured, nothing gained. But I looked everywhere. I couldn't find the sound man. He just put something on and walked away. So then I went back to the other end of the field, about a football field's length, and we just sat down and they're in the grass. Agni and Krishna Pasaya have a little sort of portable sound system, battery operated. It puts out the sound quite nicely. No longer, what's the term? We'd been chanting no longer than 10 minutes when the organizer of the festival, I think her name is Jax. She said people call her Jax. She comes up to us and she barks out. She says, "What are you doing here?" I thought, oh my gosh, we're going to get kicked out. And in the next breath, she says, get up there on stage. We need some live. Get up there on stage. So we trooped to the stage and the sound man had returned. Another auspicious omen was that the sound man kept saying, "Do you know what my name is? Do you know what my name?" I said, "No, what's your name?" He said, "Bhakti." Bhakti. He was grinning from ear to ear, so happy to have the kirtan party on the stage. And he didn't wander off this time, stayed. While we were on stage for about an hour, Agni did 3 different sets of kirtan. There's no voice like Agni's voice. It's like that of the demigods. People were in a trance, swooning out there. And punctuating his 3 sets, I would jump in with some rap songs. I got 5 rap songs in, the Shiksha Stakam, the Bhagavad Gita, When I Look into Your Eyes. I did Hanuman, and I also did Madhurastakam. I got plenty of exposure, plenty of practice for what I do as well. In any case, it was very successful, and we went on to the temple. There was a big crowd there. Again, Agni did kirtan, I did the talk, and there was a transcendental feast. Very nice. So look forward to sauntering forth next Saturday as well to see who we can bless with the transcendental sounds of Agni's chanting the holy names, Krishna Pastaya, accompanying on harmonium, and one or another of our sons, Mayapur, Onkar, expertly playing Mridanga drum. We've just been joined by Binu from Calvary. How are you, Binu? Hare Krishna. It's always nice to see you and Justin commenting or liking or giving us a pranams or a thumbs up all the way from Canada. We enjoyed being with you earlier this season in Calgary for the wonderful Festival of Colors there, and association of all the devotees. Yeah. Canada is exploding. I think I mentioned this before. There's such a large Indian population in Canada. The temples are opening up right, left, and center. It's really, really going on there. I think in addition to all the other announcements I have, I think I've figured out how to continue these Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday discussions without any breaks at all. What had held me back while I was traveling was having to go on Zoom first, and then through Zoom, go to Facebook Live. Didn't really know how to do that from my phone or from my pad. But I thought how nice it would be. I was in the association of Bhakti Marg Swami, and he does classes every day. Even when he's in the car, he does them from his phone. He does classes in South Africa. He does them in Northern Canada. He does them in Alachua, Florida. He has disciples all over the world. So he does classes, but he doesn't wait until he's nicely situated. He does them on his phone through Facebook Live. So I thought that, the main reason I go on Zoom is because Rob doesn't have Facebook. But if we're willing to bypass Zoom and then just go directly to Facebook Live, then it's a very easy system. Therefore, I think that from here on forward, when I travel, I'll not have to interrupt these sessions. We can be consistent. Is that all right? Let's see what else. Bina says she's doing great. We enjoyed Festival of Colors. I saw that. They attended. There are Rath Yatras springing up all over Canada now. Probably a dozen more Rath Yatras this year than previous years. So I saw that where you and Justin, along with Bhakti Marg, attended the Red Deer Rath Yatra just this recent Sunday. And Bhakti Marg Swami was going to be there. He's going to be in Vancouver also on the 17th and 18th when I go there. All right, we're on the fifth. I don't know what session this is. I'll fill it in later. I forgot. I think we're around 120 45-minute sessions discussing the pastimes of Gajendra. It starts in the eighth chapter, eighth canto, second chapter. The second chapter pretty much lays out the environment, the mountain, the ocean, the emeralds, the heavenly atmosphere, Gajendra's power, his strength, his influence, his wives, his children and grandchildren, the fact that he's on a first name basis with many of the demigods like Indra, Kubera, Vayu. He lives in the same neighborhood with the demigods. The whole context is laid out in the second chapter. And then the crocodile turns everything around, flips everything on his head. Everything's topsy-turvy all of a sudden. When the crocodile latches onto the elephant's leg, he's thrust into a life-threatening situation. And at that point, his prayers from a previous life awaken. He remembers that in past life he was Indradumna, or at least he remembers the prayers that King Indradumna composed, and he starts reciting them in a helpless condition. I think I've got those prayers, at least the song, the rap song, down to a point where I can recite it, share it with you without referring to notes. Let's try it. Gajendra, Elephant King, in danger's grip, his mind stripped of arrogance, his history unzipped, recalled mantras from a previous life, stripped away his attachments like a knife. Formerly, King Indradumna, now in elephant form. Yet the prayers echoed, weathering the storm. Mantras awakened from the past, transcendental sound awakening, lessons profound, memories profound. Even if, and this is the refrain, even if a devotee falls from the path, Krishna in the heart keeps track. At the right time, he'll take up the slack. He carries what you lack. He will get you back home, back to Godhead. Krishna, you're the cause and the result, the witness supreme, transcendental to this dream, unseen behind the material screen, the life within the machine. Give me protection, Lord of all might. Guide me through the darkness to the eternal light. Krishna, even though a devotee falls from the path, Krishna in the heart keeps track. At the right time, he'll take up the slack. He'll carry what you lack. He will get you back home, back to Godhead. Krishna, you're the observer, the transcendental preserver above this creation, aloof like the sun. And yet with your energies, you bless everyone. Simultaneously, one with apart from this creation and one. When a devotee falls from the path, Krishna in the heart keeps track. At the right time, he'll take up the slack. He'll carry what you lack. He will get you back home, back to Godhead. With multi-potencies, the Lord manifests his will. He creates this universe, his purpose to fulfill. And when it's time to end, he absorbs it all back like a spider retracts its web within its sac. Even though a devotee falls from the path, Krishna in the heart keeps track. At the right time, he'll take up the slack. He'll carry what you lack. He will get you back home, back to Godhead. Chant Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna's call. In this life or the next, it will never fail. Once the seed is sown, the bhakti creeper will grow. Sooner or later, you will go back home, back to Godhead. Even if a devotee falls from the path, Krishna in the heart keeps track. From within the heart, he'll carry what you lack. From the heart, within the heart, he'll take up the slack. He'll carry what you lack. He will get you back home, back to Godhead. And speaking of back, let's backtrack, go to the original song, seeing as how it's been a while since we've heard this. Gajendra, king of elephants, was sporting on a heavenly planet, courting his wives in a lotus-filled lake, cavorting in the water. He'd snorted some honey with his trunk, and he was quite drunk. Crocodile latched on his leg with his jaw, and though he stamped, trampled, and stampeded, he couldn't get the croc to withdraw. In his tug of war, Gajendra was losing the fight to stay upright, being dragged further from the shore, nagged by the reptile, and his strength was flagging day by day. Lacking the backing of the other pachyderms, Gajendra was alone in this danger zone. The water turned to foam, his friends had flown, and there was no one to phone. Devoid of his fabled strength at the end of his rope's length, Gajendra's hopes turned to the Lord, who awards protection to his devotees. He stopped pulling his leg, which the croc wanted to devour. And with his trunk, he plucked from the muck of the lake a lotus flower and offered it, seeking the Lord's power. Krishna, you're the root of creation, the fruit of the Vedas, the absolute truth, who plays on your flute, the ever-existing youth. Your lotus feet are adored by Lord Brahma and Shiva, neither of whom can leave you, not even for a beat. Your features are unlimited. You're the ingredient of all creatures. Whether they have hands, claws, jaws, or paws, they are all your parts and parcels. Those who are smart engage in your devotional service with all their hearts. You guard those who never depart from the hearth of your sheltering breast. Lord, I confess I've messed up, repressed my service, failed the test. And yet I'm thirsty for your mercy, which is greater than my mistakes. I've heard that all it takes to awaken your protection is a single cry of helpless affection. Lord, in spite of my shame, I'm calling your name. In the middle of the fight, please reclaim me from the might of the crocodile's bite. When I'm released from the teeth of the croc, block ignorance of my life and lock me into your devotional service. Lord, let my original purpose rise once again to the surface. I'm knocking at your door. Lord, please keep me close from now until evermore. When the Lord heard the eloquent prayers of the elephant, he steered Garuda to the spot and he sheared the crocodile's head from his body with his chakra. When the reptile lay dead and Gajendra was shed of his dread, he resumed the thread of his prayers and said, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All right, I think we're up to speed. So this is the 5th verse in the 3rd canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Kalena panchatvam iteshu krishnasho lokeshu paleshu chasarva hetushu tamash tadashit gahanam gabhirinam yastasya pare virajatam vibhu. Kalena panchatvam ishu krishneshu. It means when, due to the influence of time, everything is annihilated. The universe is manifest for a set time. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Maharya Brahman Ratram Yuga Sahasram Teoratu Vidam. There are the days of Brahma. Brahma is the creator of the universe. And there are the nights of Brahma. During the day, everything is manifest. Lord Brahma's one day is 4,300,000 years times 1,000. Everything is manifest. Everything is visible during the day of Brahma. When Brahma night arrives, there's a partial annihilation. The lower planets and many of the middle planets are annihilated, although the upper planets are not annihilated. Some of the middle planets are retained. So much of the universe is cast into darkness during the nighttime of Brahma, which is also 4,300,000 years times 1,000. Everything is thrust into deep, dark, impenetrable darkness. You think you've been in a dark room? You have not ever experienced, except at the time of annihilation, the kind of darkness which has been referred to here. Gahanam, Gabiram. Gahanam means deep, deep darkness. You cannot see your hand in front of your face. You cannot see your nose. Gabiram, dense, it's thick. It's like a membrane that surrounds you. It's creepy, it's scary. It's bumps in the night, chains rattling, creaking doors, noises on the stairs, hoots and howls. It's like unlike anything you've ever experienced. And yet, beyond this deep, dense darkness, beyond the dissolution of the cosmic manifestation, which at the end of Lord Brahma's life includes the heavenly planets and the demigods. When this material world becomes literally a black hole, there is the Lord who is Yastasya Pare Vivirajate Vibhu. He is Vibhu. That means he is not annihilated when the cosmos is annihilated. He remains aloof, untouched, unchanged by the dissolution of this cosmic manifestation, whether it's a partial dissolution at the end of Brahma's day or a total dissolution at the end of Brahma's lifetime, the Lord is totally unaffected by the comings and goings of, in fact, millions and millions of Brahmas. This whole material world is bhutva, bhutva, praliyate. Sometimes manifest, sometimes it's unmanifest. Prabhupada gives the example of anger. Anger is always within us. It's not always manifest. Sometimes it flares up, it manifests itself. Then our anger passes and it then is absorbed internally once again. It's always within us, not always externally manifested. So the elements, material elements, earth, bhumi, rapo, nalo, vayu, kama, nodi, vichara. The 5 gross elements, earth, air, fire, water, and ether. 3 gross elements, mind, intelligence, false ego. These, at the time of non-manifestation, they're dormant within the transcendental body of the Lord. Those are the separated material energies. Then aparamitastudyam bina prakriti mepram. Above the 8-fold material energies, 5 gross and 3 subtle, is the internal energy of the Lord, a spark of the Lord, which are the living entities, which are you and me. We are the living entities who, when we are impregnated into the material elements at the time of cosmic creation, we cause matter to become animated. We are like the wind. You look at a big body of water. Without the wind, it's placid, unruffled, smooth, calm. As soon as the wind appears, the waves kick up, and the waves create all sorts of variegated phenomena. There are small waves, there are big waves, there are deep troughs in the water, there are shallow troughs in the water. There are all kinds of different combinations and permutations which are created by the effect of the wind. So matter itself is conglomerate. It's just all congested together until such time as creation comes, when the Lord glances at the inert creation, and in that glance and through that glance, the living beings are then once again impregnated within material nature, and everything springs up in 8,400,000 species of life. Whatever were the activities and the states of consciousness of living beings at the time of the previous partial or full cosmic annihilation, those are all awakened at the time of creation, and the living beings resume what they were doing, what they had been interrupted in doing at the end of the previous manifestation. Now, if they're being awakened after a nighttime of Brahma, it means they've been asleep for 4,300,000 years times 1,000. If they're being awakened after a total annihilation, that means that they are awakened after a time lapse of 311 trillion years. So the question is, how is it that the living beings are able to pick up where they left off? Surely their memories don't extend that far. If you ask us what we were doing 24 hours ago at this time, we wouldn't have a clue. Most people would get the 1,000-yard stare. We couldn't be able to tell you what you were doing this time yesterday, 3:10 yesterday afternoon, a week ago, a month ago, a year ago. So how is it that after having been put to sleep for 4,300,000 years times 1,000, or even longer, 311 trillion years, how is it that living beings can remember what it was doing in their past life and can pick up on that? For that matter, when you go to sleep at night, you sleep for 6 to 8 hours. Generally speaking, it was the last thought in your mind at the time of going to sleep, which is on your mind when you wake up. But in the meantime, in the interim, you're having all these dreams, flying through sky, traveling to other planets. You're all kinds of complicated narratives and plots that play themselves out through your psychic, through your subtle, through your dream body. So how is it then we're able to snap back and wake up in the morning, remember what it was we had intended to remember the night before? In fact, many people, even though they set the alarm, they don't need the alarm. Just this morning, my alarm's always set for 5 o'clock, but rarely am I awakened by the alarm. I'm always awakened 4:30, quarter to 5, 5:50, quarter to 5, 4:55. And I generally I'm waiting right there to turn the alarm off as soon as it rings. How is it? It's not a great time span. For me, it's 7 hours, but so much has happened in the interim period. So much drama, so many different experiences, lifetimes. The mind goes riot in the mode of ignorance when we're sleeping. So how is it that I'm able to snap right back to that? What to speak of after a partial annihilation, after a full annihilation? How is that? That we, without even losing a step, we just pick up where we left off. Anybody want to answer here in the comments section? We've got Bina Bino, Ram Kishore, Brent Spencer. And according to Facebook, we've got 4 others joining us. Rob didn't jump on Zoom this morning. Anyone want to type in an answer? Well, the answer, how it is that we can pick up right where we left off, has nothing to do with us. Our memory doesn't cut it. We're in this body's changing. We're being enveloped from moment to moment in ignorance. Ignorance is our characteristic. It's by ignorance that we're known. If it wasn't for ignorance, we wouldn't be in this material world in the first place. So it's nothing to do with us that we're able to keep the thread. Keep the thread. Some writers have called this the silver thread. It's not due to any powers of our own that we pick up where we left off. We remember after vast periods of time. It is the presence of the Supersoul. Though we have become vulnerable, subject to the vicissitudes of material nature, hot and cold, creation and destruction, honor and dishonor, sickness and health, remembrance and forgetfulness, we've subjected ourselves to all the coverings of material nature by wanting to live separate from the Lord. And therefore, we found ourselves apart from the Lord, apart from the world of the Lord, in this material atmosphere. In that material atmosphere, living beings are not known for the power of their memories, at least not in, especially not in the Kali Yuga. Manda samandateo. Manda hiopadute. Manda is used 3 times. Manda means slow and dull, not very sharp. We're not the sharpest bulbs in the room. We're not the sharpest knives in the drawer. Us Kali Yuga residents. It is only due to the Lord that though universes come and go, Brahmas come and go, the days and nights of Brahmas follow one after another, revolving up and down and up. The Lord remains. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Param Sada Basanti Surya Deviva Chaksaram Yadvi Pashvova Panyavam Jagavam Sam Samidite. It's like the sun in the sky. You may have hurricanes, you may have earthquakes, you may have volcanoes, you may have climate change, you may have acid rains, you may have melting of the glaciers, you may have 100-degree days, you may have sub-zero days in some parts of the world. They're nothing but change, nothing but vicissitudes. We're experiencing change all the time, change in our bodies, change in our mind, climate change in our moods, change in our diet. We want change. That's why we're scrolling our phones. We want change. We want to jump from one thing to another, to another, to another, to another, to another. We're going on YouTube looking for something different, something that will represent a change from the routine, a change from what we're used to. And we're in this world of change, and that very negatively affects our ability to remember. But Krishna is in the changeless world. He's in the eternal potency. He retains his eternal spiritual form. He never has to change his form. He's not in the least bit covered by ignorance, covered by time. He's neither influenced by the effects of time nor degraded by the covering of matter. He's like the sun. Whatever are the conditions 93 million miles away from the sun on Earth, it does not in any way reach the sun itself. Sun is always aloof, separate and independent and unaffected by whatever darkness or whatever changes take place on the Earth's planet. So that's why it is said by Gajendra, Gajendra's first word in this verse is kalena. Because this material world is under the grip, is subject to the serpent of time, and that serpent affects, permeates, and devours all. Everything in this material world will be destroyed. So Gajendra is reminding himself, you shouldn't be surprised at this turn of events. I know, Gajendra is telling himself, you know, 5 minutes ago or before the crocodile grabbed your jaw, you were in such illusion. You had been lulled to such an extent by material nature that you were thinking your position as the king of the elephants, as the husband of all these beautiful she-elephants, the father and grandfather of the little baby elephants, denizen of the heavenly planets. So intoxicated were you by this atmosphere that a short time ago, before Krishna, in his formless tongue, approached you as a crocodile and cut through your illusion, you are actually thinking that this will go on forever. Even though all evidence is to the contrary. Ahani hani bhutani gachantyam yamale. When Yudhishthira came upon his father, Yamaraj, in the form of a heron, and Yamaraj, from the beak of the heron, asked Yudhishthira, answer these riddles for me, and your brothers will be free from their unconscious situation. So one of the riddles that Yamaraj asked his son Yudhishthira was, what's the most amazing thing? Without any hesitation, Yudhishthira answered, Ahani hani bhutani gachanti. The most amazing thing in this material world is that though the evidence is that we'll all die, the overwhelming evidence since time immemorial is that that which is created will be destroyed. Everything is mutable. Everything is in a state of change in this material world. Nothing will stay. Nothing will remain. Time devours all. In spite of the incontrovertible evidence to this effect, living beings individually are so illusioned that they think I will live forever. And they're making plans according to that illusion. Prabhupada talked about Paris right now. They're having the Olympics in Paris. I spent 6 months in Paris when I was young. I left America when I was, 19. And I went to Paris. I was befriended by a wealthy American family, Clement Woods and his wife, Jessie. They had a beautiful house on just off the Boulevard Saint Michel. I spent many, many hours in their home having meals, playing croquet in the backyard and badminton. They also gave me a small retainer and took me to Greece. They had a summer house in Greece. And I spent a month in Spetses in Greece as a tutor to their children. Then when they went back to Paris, I went on to hitchhike overland to India and so on and so forth. Right now, the Olympics are being held in Paris. Very congenial environment. Why is Paris one of the most beautiful cities in the world? It's because of Napoleon. Napoleon built everything as if Napoleon was going to live for 1,000 years. He built everything strong. Everything in Paris is built to live, to exist for 1,000 years. Aside from the monuments, like the Champs-Élysées and all the statues, even the apartment buildings are massive. They're solid. They're like temples built to last 1,000 years. When I was in Paris, I stayed in one of those apartments. It was palatial. But Prabhupada said Napoleon built Paris to last for 1,000 years, but within 50 years, he was dead and gone. Paris is still there, but where's Napoleon? Every illusion living being thinks they're going to live forever, even though the nature of this material world is a constant change. There isn't anything that you can count on. There isn't anything that you can depend upon. Things can last for some significant period of time. You can get into a routine. You can feel like you're being blessed one after another. Things are going your way. Things are falling into place according to your desires, and that may go on for days, months, weeks. But the inevitable fact of the matter is they will not continue. Every single blessing will come, bring in its wake a reverse, a challenge. The challenge is also a blessing. We have to be mature enough to see that. So Gajendra had been typical of conditioned souls, so comfortable, so smug, that as he walked through the jungle, he was in his big elephant form, he would step on smaller animals, end their lives, and not even give it a second thought. Thought it was inconsequential. He thought, it is my right as the elephant, the king of elephants, to go parading majestically through the jungle. If anyone gets in my way, they should have known better. And being thus intoxicated, he thought that that situation would go on and on and on and on. Now he's having a startling realization, and we also should have that realization. Krishna has approached Gajendra in the form of a crocodile, and that crocodile is Krishna in the form of time, approaching Gajendra to pop the bubble of his illusion, to wake him up that no material circumstance, however good it might be, is permanent, nor however bad it might be is permanent. I think I'll sail into a rap right now about the impermanency of everything in the material world. Counterpointed that is the permanency of the soul. That's what Krishna, approaching Gajendra as the crocodile and threatening his material circumstances, that's what Krishna hopes to evoke from Gajendra. The prayers, the mantras of his previous life as a devotee, so that he can, by the grace of the Lord, Gajendra had forgotten totally his past history of devotional service. Even if a devotee falls from the path, Krishna in the heart keeps track at the right moment. He'll take up the slack. He'll carry what you lack. He will get you back home, back to God. So far as the temporality of this material world is concerned, once in India reigned a king, who upon his signet ring engraved a maxim true and wise, which if held before the eyes, gave him counsel at a glance, fit for any change and chance, solemn words, and these were they: even this will pass away. Trains of camels through the sands brought him gems from Samarkand, fleets of galleys through the seas brought him pearls to match with these. But the king counted not his gain, treasures of the mine are made. What is wealth, the king would say, even this will pass away. Fairest lady ever seen, he made his bride and crowned his queen. Pillowed on the marriage bed, whispering to his soul, he said, bridegroom, never press fair bosom to his breast, but mortal flesh will come to clay. Even this will pass away. And the revels of the court, at the zenith of the sport, when the palms of all his guests burned, clapping at his jest, said the king amid his figs and wine, O loving friends of mine, pleasure comes, but not to stay. Even this will pass away. Fighting on a furious field, once a javelin pierced his shield. Soldiers with a loud lament bore the king bleeding to his tent. Groaning from his tortured side, pain is hard to bear, he cried. But with patience, day by day, even this will pass away. With patience, day by day, even this will pass away. Towering in the public square, 20 feet in the air, stood his statue carved in stone. Then the king, disguised, unknown, stood before his sculptured name, musing meekly, what is fame? Fame is but a slow decay. Even this will pass away. famous but a slow decay, and this will pass away. Struck with palsy, wise and old, waiting at the gates of gold, said the king with his dying breath, life is done, but what is death? And then answered the king, fell a sunbeam on his ring, showing by a heavenly ray, even this will pass away. Even this will pass away. So before we can make spiritual advancement, we need to have an accurate assessment of this material world, is that everything in this material world is in flux, it's mutable, it's in change. Whereas everything of the internal potency is immutable and changeable. So we need to switch over. We need to transfer over to that, not put our hopes in this temper changing material world. I was having a phone conversation. There's a Prabhupada disciple. One of my idols, really, his name is Guru Garanga. He's a lawyer. He lives in Alatra. He doesn't call me often because his health is very delicate. He's had some heart episodes. And I think he gets kind of excited when he talks to me. But he's my well-wisher. He's my friend. So we're talking one time. And he said, Drew, do you know the poem Ozymandias? He said it really quickly, and I'm a little hard of hearing at 77. So I said, what is the name of the poem? And I think at that point he thought that I hadn't had a clue, that I had never heard of a poem with such an exotic and a far-fetched name as Ozymandias. So he repeated again really slow. He broke it down for me like you would for a dummy. It's called Ozymandias. I said, oh, yeah, I've heard that poem before. And then I couldn't see his face on the other end of the line. But I can imagine he was a bit surprised, pleasantly surprised, because I started to rip into the lines of the poem. He said, true, wait. Don't rush through it. Slow it down and let's both savor it. Now here it is. It also has to do with the temporality of this material world. It's by Shelley, the great poet Shelley. I met a traveler from an antique land. He said, two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand, half sunk in the desert. Beside them a shattered visage lies, whose sneer and wrinkled lip and frown of cold command tell that well the sculpture those passions red which yet survive, stamped on those lifeless things the hand that mocked them, the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains round the decay of that wreck, boundless and bare. The lone and level sand stretch far away. On the pedestal, these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, you mighty in despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. In this material world, God predominates as time. Whether it be a good situation by material calculations or a bad situation, it will not last. The good will give way to the so-called bad, and the bad will give way to the so-called good. We're in the waves, samsaric waves of this material world, sometimes up, sometimes down. If a wave casts you high, 20 feet high, and from that height, you can look out and see 20, 30 miles of ocean, feel yourself special, feel yourself blessed, favored. I'm putting you on notice that's not going to last. The next minute, that same wave will recede and take you down into a trough, so you can't even see 10 feet away. You're overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed and overcome by the waves, the tumultuous, turbulent waves on every side of you. So only a fool would look to matter for happiness, for satisfaction, for fulfillment. And Gajendra might have been flirting with foolishness for a while, but because of his devotional service, any devotional service is a permanent asset. Whatever you do, you'll never lose it. It stays with you And at some future point of time, by the infallible memory of the Lord, you will be able to pick up your devotional service where you left off. Gajendra had been nearly a pure devotee in his past life. He composed beautiful prayers to the Lord. And this is the fifth of 28 prayers in the third chapter of the 8th canto. And we're going to go on discussing these prayers. But the gist of what Gajendra is saying right now is that though I may have forgotten you, Lord, you did not forget me. You very mercifully came to me as the crocodile. And in the same way as the crocodile started chewing on my leg, you're reminding me that all these bodies are being chewed on by time, which is you. And in your features time, people who are not God conscious, people who are suffering from a lack of knowledge, take the action of time on their bodies, on their countries, on their empires, on their relatives as a cruel thing, as an unfair thing. They use the decaying, deteriorating effect of time to deny God, to say, if there's a God, how could he allow this to exist? Well, I'm telling you, my friends, not only does God allow time to destroy all, but he is time. He comes as the crocodile to all of us out of his causeless mercy. And Gajendra is picking up on the lesson to be learned here is that Krishna comes to us, offering us shelter, not from the material world, shelter not in the material world, but from the material world. And Gajendra is now holding the lotus flower aloof to the Lord. He's disregarding the demigods who themselves are also in the jaws of the crocodile named time. And he's saying, only he who is the crocodile time, he is the only one who can save us from the influence of time and take us back to home, back to God. If Krishna can't give us protection, certainly no one else can give us protection. Not Shiva, not Brahma, not Vayu, not Kavara, not Indra. Krishna is time. Krishna is also beyond time. And Krishna is chewing on us all out of his causeless mercy to make us wake up to the temporality, the insubstantiality of this material world, and encourage us to make the transition back to home, back to Godhead, beyond this pralaya, beyond this dense, scary, nightmarish, impenetrable darkness of this material world, just like the sun in the sky. Krishna's face shines, giving us the promise of an eternal life full of bliss and knowledge. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Well, bless your hearts, even though I have been inconsistent and in a sense unfaithful due to my travels. You have jumped back on board timely. Wow, the gang's all here. Wow. We've got Govinda Dave, who weighs in with a hearty Hare Krishna. And we've also got Brent Spencer. Paris too goes on, even though Napoleon is gone. The city will go away someday too, no matter how many generations come through. Time annihilates all material things, even those of rulers and kings. Beautiful. Paris still goes on, even though Napoleon is gone. The city will go away someday too, no matter how many generations come through. Time annihilates all material things, even those of rulers and kings. Britta, who's very, very great with words. Both her and her husband, Adrian, are wordsmiths, you might say. In the waves of the material world storms, may I always put my faith in you, O Lord of Lords. Yes, that's a paraphrase of what Gajendra was saying. Chad Dutch, good morning on this Motivational Monday. Hare Krishna. Britta, who as a literati would have certainly known the poem of Ozymandias. She weighs in. She loves the poem. It's a beautiful poem. Shelley was almost demigodish in terms of his adeptness, his adroitness, and evoking beautiful images with the use of language. Brent also comes with another contribution here. The soul animates matter by the chance of Krishna's glance. We retake our material station after our most recent annihilation. We take our previous ambition as a supersoul reminds us of our position. Nice. Unless you're using this tongue in cheek, I'm not sure if it would be good to say the chance of Vishnu's glance. If that's meant as tongue in cheek, yeah, that's good. Otherwise, the Vishnu's glance is anything but chance. But again, as I say, if that's tongue in cheek, it's good. The soul animates matter by the chance of Vishnu's glance. Chance in quotes. Haha. We retake our material station after a most recent annihilation. We take up our previous ambition as the supersoul reminds us of our position. Paramatma. Very nice. Ram Kishore from Minneapolis. Good to connect with you. Binu and Justin, my friends from Calgary. Jay. There's two Jays. There's one from London and there's one from Las Vegas. I think Jay Darastia is the one from London. Correct me if I'm wrong. Oh yeah, that's it. And Rob didn't come on Zoom today. And then again, if you joined me a little late, I believe, I hope I'm not making a promise I can't keep, but I believe if I just bypass Zoom when I'm traveling, and when I'm here in Spanish Fork and I'm going from my office, I will come onto Zoom to give Rob a chance to join us. And then I will go through Zoom to Facebook. But when I'm traveling, that's a little complicated. I very rarely have my laptop with me. I think if I bypass Zoom while I'm traveling, not go onto Facebook through Zoom, but go directly into Facebook Live, I should be able to continue these Motivational Monday, Transcendental Tuesday, Wisdom Wednesdays, even when I'm traveling. And the first test of this will be not next week, but the following week when I go to Vancouver. We'll see. We'll see. And of course, there'll be time differences. Vancouver is an hour earlier. So I have to go on at 6:30 then, which is certainly doable. Anyway, I relish these classes. I relish your association. And I feel bad when, we have a hiatus. And I feel so grateful that you guys still jump on board after I've been AWL. So I'll try not to do that. I'll try to shore up the gaps on my side so you can be confident that on any given Monday, for what it's worth, Caru will be there for you and for himself. I love articulating the truths because then they become more solidly embedded within me. Let's end. It's Motivational Monday. It's been great to be back with you. I look forward to resuming our discussion tomorrow on Transcendental Tuesday. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.